Last week, I made a poll on my channel asking you all what you think silver's price should be. 4.5 thousand people voted. The results were incredibly interesting, and in the Silver Stacking podcast that Andy Shectman and I do every Thursday, I wanted to show this poll to Andy and get his opinion on these numbers. I wanted to bring something up. I haven't even showed you this. I wanted to kind of surprise you with this. I did a poll last week asking people what they think silver's true price is, actual price. And I posted it. This week, it has 4.5 thousand votes. So we get a pretty good idea of what the majority of people think. So I'm about to pull this up. You can see I said, what should silver's price be? And there's 4.5 thousand votes. 4.5 thousand. That's a lot of people. So 13% said below $50, 29%, which is the top category is $50 to $100. 22% says 100 to 500, 500 to 1,000 is 9%, and second is 1,000 plus. And reading some of these comments, very interesting. I went through a lot of them in a video last week, but it only had like 1,000 votes. So now you get a better idea. But some people have some great stuff. I pinned this one. It says shut down the price manipulation on the COMEX, and you'll see silver is worth more than gold. But there's some pretty cool stuff on there. I want to get your opinion on, on those numbers.
Picking a number is always a guess. It could be educated.
It's very hard.
It is hard. It could be biased. But I think that, look, I think the price will go higher than anyone thinks possible. That's just the bottom line.
Butler.
I think it will go higher. And that's the one truism that I've learned in all these years in finance is that markets go higher to the upside than anyone ever thinks possible, won't fall further to the downside than anyone thinks possible. When I started in this industry in 1989, the Nikkei was 41,000 or nearly. And they owned Japanese-owned Pebble Beach and Rockefeller Center and casinos in Vegas and ski resorts in Colorado. And anything with a motherboard or an engine, they made better than we did. And everyone thought they were taking over the world. And let's look and see what the Nikkei is today here. 30 plus years later, the Japanese Nikkei is at 32,000. It's never come back, ever. And it's still 8,000 points plus away from where it was when I started in this industry. And that is with interest rates being at or near zero the entire time. They still couldn't get people back into the market. So it's taken over 3 decades to even get about 75% of the way back to where they once were. And by the same token, the Dow Jones was 2,100. And the first conference I went to, I remember vividly, I went with my dad. I was 19. And one guy, it was a hard asset conference in Las Vegas. And one guy said the Dow Jones would go to 10,000, and he was laughed off the stage. And here I watch it go from 2,100 to 36,000. No one expected that, as much as no one expected the Nikkei to do what it did. And so when you look at silver and its expansion in uses, and the fact that it's on a large industrial level, arguably we're witnessing a decrease in supply and major delivery off the exchanges. If you realize it's coming out of the ground at 7 to 1 right now, I mean, pick a number, put gold at 3,000, divide by 7. What do you get? Over $300 an ounce. Even at 2,000, divide by 7. And so the point is, it's not that crazy to make a statement like that. I mean, if you take 2,000, we're almost there right now, and divide by 7, you could argue that realistically it should be $285 an ounce. That's the geologic ratio between gold and silver right now. It has gone from 16 to 1 to 7 to 1, according to Keith Neumeyer and all of his research as the CEO of First Majestic Silver and other mining companies. So could it be 300 an ounce? Hell yeah, why not? Put it at 5,000 and divide by 7. What do you get? 5,000 divided by 7,
which is a very realistic
$715 an ounce. Is that crazy? Maybe, maybe not. Is it crazy to think gold could go to 3, 4, or 5,000 in an environment where the most sophisticated, well-funded, and well-informed central bankers are massively are taking possession of it and accumulating it at levels that the world has never seen before? And, you know, you look at the central bank's acquisition of gold last year, or, you know, was the biggest year ever. And we're already ahead of that this year in terms of how much the central banks are buying. It just is, it's an environment where the biggest money in the world is showing you the way that they look at gold and silver. So these prices could go a whole hell of a lot higher. But I want to make it very clear.
It's not
This is
about
not
that.
why we buy it. We
Yeah, it's
buy
not
it.
about that.
It's not to get wealthy. It is wealth, and it
Yeah.
will go to 3, 4, 500 an ounce in the face of a dollar collapsing.
That's what I was going to say. You have to
Yes.
look at it from the purchasing power of a dollar decreasing, so it takes more dollars to purchase that ounce. Like the
That's
Zimbabwe
correct.
$1 trillion bill. You see those people holding signs that says broke billionaire, you know, in third world countries. Like,
Well, if you look at China and Japan, the second and third largest economies in the world, gold reached all-time highs against both of them recently. It's not the price of gold going to the moon. It's the dollar that we measure it against, or the other currencies that are being measured against it, that matter. And the dollar is inordinately and unjustifiably strong. So everything that we value it against, even looking at the CPI came way down because the dollar went way up. And so it's all an illusion. Everything from the way that we gauge inflation to the price of commodities in the face of an inordinately strong dollar that much of the world is trying really hard to break free from by chipping away at its hegemony day by day, by day, by day, by day, and little by little by little, logarithmic decay, bang, it snaps. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, we haven't seen anything yet. So those prices could all be justifiable. But I want people to know that's not why I own it or why I sell it. And yes, you could actually thrive, not just survive, if you own enough of it. But that's not why you buy it. And you buy it because the dollar's in trouble, and you're trying to find a medium of exchange that has been agreed upon through all of time and history, something that's outlived everything the world's ever thrown at it. And that's what gold and silver represent. And it's an exodus from a matrix that is sick and that is dying, and the Keynesian experiment that is coming to an end. So yeah, you could make a lot of money, and it could go a hell of a lot higher, but be careful what you wish for, because we have $300-400 an ounce silver. You know, you're going to have a Big Mac that's $12, or, you know, or a cup of coffee at Starbucks that's $5, or whatever it may be. The dollar that we call money, our currency, is being, little by little by little, it is being sidestepped for other alternatives like gold, like other currencies at this point, at least in terms of settlement, as we see across the globe. And over time, all of this settlement done outside the dollar will start to impact the reserve status of the dollar. And I think those days are growing closer. So when we see these pullbacks, these subsidies that make no sense, look at it as a bonus. Don't be disheartened by it. Look at it as, geez, you know, these people are truly idiots that they're giving me that much more time to continue to add to my stack in an environment where everything we see around us should dictate that metals would be exceedingly higher than they are right now. So, you know, it's not an investment, you guys, it's wealth. And that's the way I look at it. And it might go really high and make you wealthy, but that's not why we buy
it. If you truly think about the COMEX collapsing, or just how manipulated the prices, and if any day that were to come to light, and not in a, I couldn't say like in a perfect world, but even something is, you know, something as realistic as that, what happened in the nickel market a couple of years ago, or, you know, or even the signs that things are happening. COMEX, LBMA, and the LME all admitted that their reserves are low, and it's not getting any better. I made a video yesterday, and even in the intro, I mentioned something that you just said, because it's talking about AI fueling precious metals demand in 2024. Yes, in the
need for microchips.
Yep, and it's only going to, you know, it's only going to get more, and it, you know, it's only going to become more obvious that we don't have enough silver. And in the intro, I even said, you know, AI to fuel precious metals demand in 2024. I know what you're thinking. This is great. We could make a pretty penny, but at what cost, right? If you think about the bigger picture of why we need this silver, it's great. You know, it's rainbows and unicorns, but when you really look at it, it could be extremely scary for the reasons we're trying to go green.
Correct. I agree. And I think that's the important way to look at it. You're buying this because we are at the end of a long experiment in Keynesian economics that is a system based on debt and consumption and taxation, whereas the Austrian economic system, which would have been a much better path to follow, is one that is built upon savings, investment, and reinvestment. It's the brick house in the little three pigs story versus the one made of straw, and the wolf comes and blows it down.
Wow, I
Well, you could
like
argue the
that.
wolf is about ready to blow this house
I like
down
that.
because we have, in many respects, we have not only lost a lot of the respect that the world has for us and or the good graces of our foreign creditors, where countries like China, as they are accumulating more and more gold, lo and behold, are down to their lowest treasury holding in over 14 years. You could say the same thing about Saudi Arabia, their lowest treasury holding in almost 10 years. And they continue to sell treasuries in favor of hard assets. And that's really the name of the game. That's what Zoltan Pozsar told us was coming. Bretton Woods 3, a system dominated by commodities and transparency. And, our system is opaque. It's based on debt instruments, rehypothecation, taxation. People say, well, who will trust the BRICS? Well, who's going to trust us anymore? Who's
There
going
you
to trust
go.
us? And I think you look at our legal system, you look at the divisiveness in this country, you look at all of the things around us that are equally as troubling as what we see around us outside the country with the mismanagement of the dollar, the sanctions, the coercion, all of these things that are making countries around the world say, I'm not quite sure. We talked about this last week, but for those people who didn't listen, we invaded Iraq 20 years ago, or didn't hear, by the way. And here it is 20 years ago. And last year, as an example, Iraq made $90 billion in oil revenue. And we don't let them direct the proceeds of that. It's held in a bank at the New York Fed or an account at the New York Fed. They asked the US for $1 billion of their $90 billion that they made last year. And we said no. So, I mean, you can see exactly why these countries around the world are rallying against the hypocrisy and the coercion and the hegemony of the dollar. And Iraq is no different. They publicly said they would like to join BRICS if invited. They're making trading in dollars illegal. All physical green bills will be out of the country and out of the banks by January 1 of 2024. So, you can see why this is happening. And it's something that our leaders are going down the wrong path. And if we were a united, strong country where it was about being an American, not black or white or red or blue or vax or no vax or rich or poor or whatever your political affiliation or ideology is, you are defined now by who you voted for last year. That's complete and total bullshit. Shouldn't be that way. We're Americans. We're all supposed to be pulling in the same direction. That's what this country was about, united into one common cause, and we are anything but. So I fear more so now for our ability to deal with this kind of really very serious ramifications of global de-dollarization and all of the things that are happening that are, I guess you could say, are anti-capitalistic, anti-American, anti-dollar. And that's why we buy gold and silver, because the rest of the system is lacking trust and transparency and credibility. And I think if you are not a contrarian, you are bound to be a victim. I do believe that.